I have a lot of videos about spousal support, how long you should get it for, and how much it's going to be, but I don't have a video about how to fill out the spousal support forms, how to actually get it, and especially if you don't know how much the other side is making. So what I suggest doing first to get, if you of course, to get a lawyer if you can, but this video is more designed if more like self-help. What if you cannot afford a lawyer? How are you going to do it? First, you need to get a case number, and there are many ways to get a case number for spousal support. Either you get a case number by filing for divorce or filing for legal separation. Same forms, just different checkboxes. If you're filing for divorce, it's a form FL100. And if you're filing for legal separation, same form. It's on top, at the very top of the form FL100, you will see dissolution of divorce or legal separation. And then the second form is FL110, which is summons. And then in San Francisco, it's another form, ADR 11.17. And you can Google these forms, and the website that pops up with GOV at the end is an official website that you can use to download these forms, and they're all fillable. So download these forms, file them, have someone else serve your spouse, or you can do it all together. So file them together with request photo for spousal support, and you can do that. So in order to file for spousal support, you need to fill out FL300, which is called request photo for spousal support, then FL157, FL158, and FL319. And if I were you, I would be asking for spousal support and attorney's fees to hire a lawyer, so that you don't need to watch these videos, but you can actually hire me or another lawyer in your area and get this spousal support for you going. One thing that you do need is to fill out also your income and expense declaration. So you file these divorce forms to get the case number, then you file all these forms I just said to ask for spousal support, and the form 300 has at the end either number 8 or number 10, describe your case, so it doesn't leave you much room. It's like that much to write your story. So you can create an attachment, just a Word document, and say on top, attachment to FL300, and then you get your declaration going, and usually you're under penalty of perjury. I, Diana Romanovska, declare under penalty of perjury, and that this is my personal knowledge of the facts herewith, and describe your case and say, well, how long have you been married? How much are you earning? If you're not earning, why? And the forms FL 157, 158, and 319, they will help you to guide your thinking, because it shows, based on the questions in these forms, how to fill it out and how to draft your declaration in a way. It doesn't have to be long. It can be 1 or 2 pages. People who are in need of spousal support and attorney's fees, most of the time they don't know how to fill out these forms, and they cannot afford their lawyer, an attorney. So what I would do, if you type in, and I'm going to do it with you right now, San Francisco self-help spousal support. This is how I would do it if I didn't go to law school and if I didn't know and couldn't afford a lawyer. So the first thing that pops up, sfsuperiorcourt.org, and then spousal support Superior Court. So I'm checking in that. It's a good one. So it just describes when couples separate and called spousal support. So it describes what it is, forms and instructions. And then it provides a website that I don't like, so I go back and click the second website. It's the same site that I don't like. Okay, let's read it then, because it looks different. What I would like to see is a list of forms that I just described and video to each of that form, how to fill it out. So the first thing that pops up, let me see if I can turn the camera around. You see it pops up temporary spousal support. And then it explains, ask the judge to order before you start again. Okay, so here it is. It says request photos 300. Examples. What are examples? How to facts and support. Remember I told you item 8 or item 8 or 10 has this attachment, so it shows you this MC031. You don't have to use it. It's very short, as you can see. It's again not enough. So go back and just use a Word document. Then you fill out FL150. Then you fill out, redact your social security numbers. Okay, so for whatever reason, let me switch back to me. And maybe because I'm doing it so fast, it doesn't show me the forms I just described, 157, 158, 319. One thing that you wouldn't know, and it's not stated here, I didn't see it, the local rules. San Francisco local rules have it, Santa Clara 4B local rule has it. Whenever you ask for money, you have to lodge 2 years of state and federal tax return. And the reason I use the word lodged, not filed, because it's very sensitive information. The way you lodge it is you have a cover page that states your name, address, the parties. So it's like, it's hard to describe it on this video without showing it. Let me see if I have it. No, I don't. I don't, without disclosing confidential information. So basically, it needs to have a cover page that you can show to the clerk, and it has to have what I said, your information, then the party's name, and then the case number, and then you say federal and 2000. Let's say 2 years. Where in 2022 it would be 2021, 2020. State and federal tax return lodged, and then you copy it, put it. You can redact social security numbers, but it's going to be not filed, so I wouldn't worry too much about that, because you're going to put it in an envelope, in a yellow envelope, and give it to the clerk and say this is lodged for the judge, and they would give it directly to the judge, because the judge needs, in order to make an order for child support and spousal support, the judge needs to see tax returns from both parties, especially if you are not married or separated. Each of you have different tax returns. So once you file, you get a case number, you get a court date, you lodged all of this, and you have to lodge it no later than 5 court days before the hearing. So you can do it right away or later. Then you have to give it to someone else to serve the other side. Since you, in my scenario that I created just for this video, is you do it all together in one piece. So you file for divorce to get a case number, and summons needs to be served personally. If you're already in a divorce, then you can serve it by mail, but make sure you serve it 16 court days before. Otherwise, the other side will be asking for continuance, and when you do so, you fill out a proof of service form. I believe it's FL335. Proof of service by mail. Yay. So it's FL335. Then you fill it out or actually the process server fills it out and files it with the court or gives it to you. And you file it with the court because the judge, for example, in San Francisco, will make a tentative ruling, which means a day before. And again, so how do you check tentative ruling? So I type it in Google right now, tentative ruling San Francisco. Okay, let me turn around the camera so you can see what I see. And you can see here, tentative ruling San Francisco. And then you see this. And you see tentative ruling right here. And then you have a day before, and it describes here that a day before you need to read this. Day before, you open it up and you find your case. So this is all public record. You find your case, you read it. If you agree, then you don't need to do anything. You don't even need to appear. If you don't agree, then it says right here, call this phone number, this department to say that you disagree, depending which department it is. Could be department 44, 43. There are 2 departments in San Francisco. And then you also need to contact the other side to tell them by 4 p.m. that you disagree with the tentative ruling. Just so you know, most of the time the judge never changes their mind. Once they did a tentative ruling, it's rarely that the judge says, well, you convinced me, because usually you convince the judge before the court makes an order. So in your pleading, be careful what you say. In the penalty of perjury, be very precise and convincing why you need what you need. And the other side has to respond to your request for order once you serve them 16 court days before. 9 court days, it's called response, which if you're the one who is responding, then you need to fill out the form FL320, file it in FL150 and lodge your tax returns, and then file it with the court, serve the other side 9 court days before. If you do it by email, especially if you have an email agreement, you need to add 2 days. I usually don't do that, so we all kind of ignore the 2 day, but CCP 1000, I think 10.6 has that plus 2 day rule. So just keep in mind, if you have tricky opposing side, they will catch it. If you mail it, then add 5 days. So if you want to be precise and not get any problems, then, and you are doing things at last minute, then you file it 9 court days before, and then you serve in person, meaning you drop it off at opposing side's counsel's office. If they're represented, if not, then serve them personally wherever they are. So which makes things complicated. Ideally, reach an agreement about, hey, email service for all. So then the judge usually makes that decision based on all of this. Remember, you also have a reply time. So you file request for order for spousal support attorney's fees 16 court days before. Let's say you got a hearing date, and they file their response 9 court days before. And then you can respond to their response, which is called reply, that cannot exceed 5 pages, not including exhibits. So exhibits are separate. Response cannot exceed 10 pages. And I'm talking about San Francisco local rules. You can read it if you type in Google San Francisco local rules. There are a bunch of rules. How it should all look and what font to use and numbering, and it's very detailed if you want to go into that. But if you're self-represented, these are the basic rules you need in order to avoid getting rejected for procedural purposes, or the court might continue the spousal support because you didn't fill out income and expense declaration, logically, right? So if the court already has it, it will be tentatively, and the court will use DISO master calculator. So in my videos, I told you, well, you can calculate your spousal support and child support yourself by going to child support calculator in Google, California, and then there is a website. However, the court is using a different type of calculator. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to turn around, show you how a real calculator that court use looks like. Let me make it brighter and maybe even bigger so you can see. Can you see it? So you see husband, wife, and then maybe you can screenshot this. These are all the things you can fill out in this calculator. So filing status single, it means that it's right here. It means that how you're gonna file taxes this year. And under wife it says head of household and how many exemptions you get. Each get one. And monthly income, 401k contribution, volunteer employee, not the employer. And then you see the only thing I filled in was $917 for property tax expenses. But you can see how many other things can be filled in. Not much actually, but still something better than nothing. For example, most used filled in thing is going to be medical expense. And then on this side, you will see husband, net adjusted. So this calculator deducts what you have to pay in taxes. And SS, it means spousal support pay your husband will have to pay in Santa Clara $9,930. So let's say if we had more, let's see, give me one sec. I'm trying to get more clear picture. You probably would be, curious to know in percentage how much you would pay. Okay, my computer is not cooperating right now. So I think it's probably better to do it in consultation because it will really depend on, let's say if I put you earn 10,000 and the other spouse earns zero, I can go into so many different versions that the likelihood it's going to apply in your cases. And I cannot tell percentage because if I say 10,000 and the other side earns zero and the percentage is 40%, the whole thing changes if I shift the numbers a little bit if the other side earns somewhat more. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it alone. And then there is also a so-called bonus table. So let me show you how bonus table looks like. So you see under this cancellation, if husband makes $1,000, then he has to pay 21% in 91 cents in spousal support, which is $219. Let's make it a little bit bigger. On $10,000, he would have to pay $2,119. And if we scroll down, we can make it as long as 100,000 or a million. So you see it becomes 21,000 out of 100,000. And then if wife makes money, then she also pays 0% to spouse in CS, child support. And then you see spousal support on $1,000, it's 36%. See, he has to pay her 21% on 1,000, but she has to give him 36%. Why is it such a big difference? Well, because she makes less money, so she will pay more, which doesn't make any sense. But And then there is this one other confusing number is 118,000 total spousal support. That would include an annual spousal support plus the bonus. And then total CS and SS, total child support and spousal support, the same number, because remember, she wouldn't pay him any child bonus and child support. Okay, so this is the basics for how to file for spousal support, how to calculate it, and how to deal with tentative rulings, what forms to fill out. If any of this still is not clear, just let me know. Okay, I like myself more with filter. And let me know by scheduling a consultation, and we can talk and we can calculate on the spot. If you know your income, his income, or her income, we can calculate it on the spot. So, what else am I not thinking about? You know, if it's really, really tough with money, then I would contact child support services, because child support services' job is to get you child support, and they will file things for you and get orders in place. So that's it. If you have resources, then you can contact me on a hourly basis to just make sure the forms are all filled out correctly, help to fill out things, serve things, to minimize the cost. And if you have more sources, then you wouldn't be watching this video probably, so it wouldn't apply. Then you would just hire a lawyer. So, all right, I'm losing my voice. Bye.